to Amplify, the podcast for accounting firm growth. I'm your host, Cassy Clayman. Today, we're discussing building brand authority and challenging stereotypes with Gilbert R. Vasquez, managing partner of Vasquez and Company. Mr. Vasquez has a dynamic past colored with interesting experiences and advocating for himself to become leader of one of the largest minority-owned CPA firms in the country. Today, he will share insights on building personal brand authority, challenging perceived notions, and offer practical tips to help you navigate challenges and stand out and stand up in your professional interactions. Gil, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Before we jump in, why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Well, I was born in the wealthy community, I describe the wealthy community of East Los Angeles, here in California. And some people say, well, where's the wealthy community of East Los Angeles? Because it's really a poor side of town. And I tell people it's all in your mind. It's how you feel about where you were born and raised, and how you feel about your parents. And I had two wonderful parents. And I feel the foundation for my success started with my parents. So with that first step, I slowly became what I am today.
That's awesome. Can you talk a bit about becoming a CPA? When you started at a time when maybe there were not a lot of Latinos in the industry, and then now you're a managing partner. So talk about your journey a little bit.
Well, I didn't know what an accountant was. My father wanted me to be an electrician, and he wanted me to be a plumber, and he wanted to be some sort of a tradesman, but that was not really what I wanted to do. And they asked me, what do you want to do? And I told them, I don't know yet. I have to kind of figure it out. And once I decide, I will tell you, because my father was somebody that just wanted you to have a direction immediately. And so I was very good in math. So I was always number one in math in my school, in my class. And so when I went to college, I thought to myself, well, what should I take? So I thought I'd take accounting, because that seemed to tie in with math. And so I was focused from the day one, went to college, about being an accountant. And that with that thought, that's what propelled me to go into public accounting.
So what inspired you to start Vasquez and Company?
Well, first of all, it was maybe I should have expanded a little bit earlier. It was when I got started, there was a rule, an unwritten rule, and I didn't know what the unwritten rule was. And one of my professors approached me before I went to interview for a job, as I was graduating from college, and said, Gil, he says, you're one of our top students, you have a good personality, you have a good GPA, so on and so forth, but you're not going to get a job because at that time you said you're Mexican, and they don't hire any Mexicans, which is now Latino, or for that matter, any ethnic minority. And I said, really? I said, why? I said, well, that's just the way it is. And of course, what I didn't know then was that also women of any type would not be hired. And another thing that I didn't know that would come out was that also Jews were not hired. So it was only white males that were hired. And so so seven Latinos went to interview. None of them got a job, but I wanted to be a CPA. I'd worked, when I was going through college, I was a controller for an engineering company, and I met the CPA that handled the accounting records for the company. And he liked me, and I started working for him part-time, as well as working with the engineering company, and I worked my way through college. And so so now I had experience, I had education, but no opportunity. So what I decided to do, because I was really focused, I wanted to become a CPA. I interviewed 13 times. Now, some of the interviews were a little bit rough, but I didn't get discouraged. I was determined to be a CPA. So finally, I got a job. And I got a job with a small Jewish CPA firm, but that gave me my start to work for the largest Jewish CPA firm on the West Side, which ultimately merged with a national firm. So I got what I wanted in terms of working for a large firm, but it was for some it might have been frustrating. I think the fact that I was so determined to be a CPA, I just took it as just extra effort. And so I think having that kind of mindset really helped me in my career of becoming a CPA. And I was driven by that Because of, again, what I just mentioned. I thought that's what I'd be best at and most successful.
So it sounds like you navigated through a lot of challenges, preconceived notions, and you really persevered your way through them as you decided to build Vasquez and Company and build it into one of the largest Latino-owned CPA firms in California. What did you want to? What kind of culture did you want to cultivate?
Well, the fact that I was able to work for a large CPA firm gave me the confidence to to both start my own firm and then build it to become a large firm. So many firms don't want to become large, but I did want to become large, and just a matter of information. We're now the largest, not largest minority firm in the United States. So we attained that. And
Wow.
what drove me to do this? Well, I think in the United States, bigness is greatness. If you have more money, or you're perceived as smarter. And you're right, there were stereotypes. So overcoming that. So being big and large and successful was part of overcoming the stereotypes and the negativism that you encountered. And I try to always be very positive. I've always been very friendly. I've always been a hard worker, and all of that is important when you're in business and you want to succeed. You need many traits to be successful. I think I have a lot of those traits. Some will elaborate more on those, but confidence, determination, desire, knowledge, experience, expertise. Uh, all of these things I acquired as I went along. Get, I was like, from day one, from that I was a little kid, I was a hard worker. So this kind of just drifted over. And in business, you can be as smart as you want. You got to be a little bit lucky, I think, but you got to be a hard worker. You can't. When you're starting out, you just can't say I'm going to work, half time or this. No, you got to work, you know, twice as hard when you're in business as when you're working for somebody else. And so I had that desire, that energy. That my health was good. I was young, and so all of that energy, I was able to channel into making our firm a success. And then, like I said, my goal was always be the largest. And so I've achieved one of my goals, and that is, to have a large, successful firm that other people admire and respect as well.
It sounds like that you've really stayed true to yourself, true to who you are, and gone through all of these career milestones with authenticity, which is very admirable. And before we started recording, you mentioned how many boards you've been on. You have some interesting experience. I read that you served on the 1984 Olympic Committee, which is a timely callback this year. But as we're talking about brand authority and being authentic to yourself and presenting that for your professional career, can you talk about how those boards have served you in your career?
Yes, I've been on about 40 boards in my career, important boards. I look back now and think, how did I do that? But again, I was a hard worker, had a lot of energy. So some of them, and the result of being on these boards separated me from other individuals and caused me to be sought after, not just for business opportunities, but for opportunities on public traded company boards. So I have more than 6 public traded company boards that I've sat on. I've and sitting on these other boards. You mentioned the Olympics. So the 1984 Olympics were the most successful Olympic Games in the history of the Olympic movement, and I was one of 15 people on the executive committee. Uh, Sitting on these boards, again, separating yourself, getting to people to know who you are, having them feel confident and comfortable in your leadership skills, and your ability to navigate um, uh, dealing with people, and getting to the top and being the president of different organizations. All of that set me apart, as I mentioned earlier. Kind of branded me as somebody that was a leader, somebody that was a worker, somebody that could get the job done. And as you're, without realizing it, people are looking at you. And people come to you. They come to you for different reasons, as I mentioned, on corporate boards. I got a lot of client. I was successful almost from day one. I got one client, two clients, four clients, 10 clients, and before you know it, I had within 6 months I had six people working for me, which is almost unheard of. There was no internet at those days. There was no virtual calls. I mean, everything was manual. You only had a telephone and you had a list of contacts, and you had to go see them. It wasn't like we're doing now, where we can see each other through the internet. No, you had to when I went looking for these jobs, every job I had to go there in person. I had to travel all over LA to get there. So by doing this, by getting around, by being on these boards, the California Board of Accountancy, I was on that board in the toughest time period they ever had. There was a contentious issue, and I happened to take the side that I thought was right. I got 1,002 letters. Five supported me, and 997 were against me. I wrote a 12-page letter explaining my position. I got 300 letters back saying, maybe I don't agree with you, but I understand. At the end of the day, I was vindicated. So you can imagine, starting with only five people supporting you, and at the end of the day, being right. But that again sets you apart. That shows that you're a leader, that you're able to stand up to pressure and do the right thing. I found that Alpha. We kind of talk about boards now. Uh, Alpha at the beginning was the American Association of Spanish-speaking CPAs, and over the years it's changed, and now it's the Association of Latino Professionals for America. And it started with 19 people. Our first convention had 16 people in Las Vegas. It was just kind of a stand-up affair. It was nothing really formal. Uh, uh, just are concluding their convention today. Alpha now has more than 100,000 members. More than 7,000 people attended the convention this year. And what was important about Alpha, and the reason I found that it again is because I couldn't get a job, and I didn't want others, not just Latinos, but all the other groups that I mentioned to you, not to experience what I experienced, to make the playing field level, to live up to the creed of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And so I am, born in America, raised in America, an American like everybody else. And so the idea is we always want to make America bigger, better, greater. And so this is part of my contribution to helping that occur. And so I did this by being on and learning. You learn on these boards. You're learning. You're meeting people. You're getting ideas. You're becoming a different person. You're becoming a better person. You're getting a smarter person. You're becoming a person that's more connected. That's better. That's more respected. That's looked up to. So all of these things occurred without meaning to do this. I didn't intend to do this, but this was the consequence of being on all these boards.
Yeah, you've taken every experience you've had and made it a part of who you are.
I definitely have.
And it sounds like, community is a big part of that. I mean, whatever community means to you or to anyone else. And I think a lot of firms are really focused on community service. And I'm curious what you think, like what role community service and involvement play in building, I mean, beyond what you've talked about, where you just show up and participate, but on a broader scale, what role does it play in your firm's reputation or any firm's reputation?
Well, it builds up your credibility as a person. It builds up the notion that you care not just about yourself, but about others, and bringing others along and making them better people and contributing to their success. And so all of these things have been part of my personal growth, and I did this again through community service. I felt very important about it when I was a boy. I used to play on the playgrounds, and I was a pretty good athlete. I So I would play on the playgrounds. I would play on after school. I was part of the Boy Scouts. I was part of, again, as a little kid, I was part of quite a few organizations, and all of these organizations benefited me. The Boy Scouts, going on camping, learning the Morse code, interfacing with other young boys. All of this helped me to grow, and I feel that the beginning of community service probably started when I was a young boy and joining these organizations and realizing the benefit, what the benefit that I got. And so I wanted to make sure that others got that benefit, but on an expanded basis, because as we've grown as a country, things are more complicated. You got to learn more. You've got to things cost more money. Nothing, nothing is for free. And so I felt that I got basically a free education because I went to community college and I went to public school. I was a teacher for a couple of years. I went back to community college because I wanted to give something back to the college that I went to. When I was on the Olympic Games, we talked about that briefly. I made sure that at East LA College had a venue. They had field hockey as a venue, so we invested $3 million in that stadium, and refurbished it like it was brand new. And again, it was part of the Olympic Games. And Cal State LA, we put a big mural there, and all of these things I did because I wanted to show my appreciation for the opportunity I was given, and again, help other people. Uh, gain those experiences and those opportunities and contribute, not just with my time, but with my money. So all of that was important for me to do this. And again, the byproduct of this was separating yourself from others. All of a sudden, people said, "Boy, he's got to be kind of smart, or he's certainly well connected, or he's somebody we need to bring on board." And this was true with clients and with board of directors opportunities and with and moving up the ladder within these organizations. I've been president. I've been chairman of the boards. I've chairman of the audit committee. But all these boards that I sat on and had a speaking role. I didn't mention Unidos US, which is the largest Latino civil rights organization in the country. So I was chair of that. When I was on the board, one of the things I decided to do was to make the board be represented by 12 women and 12 men. It was heavily men influenced. I talked to the executive director, who was and president, who was a man, Raul Seguirre, and I told Raul, I said, Raul, I says, we need to really start thinking differently, and he agreed, and we did that. And our firm today, 75% of our women, of our total personnel are women, as are our partners and directors. So it's not at the bottom, but at the whole level. And this is what I believe. I mentioned earlier I had two wonderful parents. I love my mother. She was somebody I really admired and respected, as well as my father. And I think that, and I have three daughters. I have so I have daughters, and I have a son. So in my mind, we talk about trying to make things fair and equal. So I've tried to set an example myself of what I believe is right in terms of opportunity and upward mobility for everybody.
It sounds like you've been not only. It sounds like you've been very intentional with the way that you pursue your life, but like I said, going back to your value system and who you are as a person and what you believe in, and combining those things to create this amazing story to become, the leader of many organizations. And as we talk about community, and you're sort of touching on diversity and inclusion, and I think a relevant question is giving the current landscape and increase of diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI initiatives. How do you think that fits into firms now when we have conversations going on, or whatever is going on?
Well, I believe that DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion are more relevant than ever. And you might say, well, no, it's getting better. It is getting better, but it has a long ways to go. And we're talking about a concept, maybe a spirit of goodwill, and so you want to make sure that opportunities at every level are open to you. And let me give you an example. It's kind of a painful one, but that's what it is. So AB 1392, that's a bill that was passed by the California legislature, required hospitals to disclose what their procurement opportunities are for the major ethnic minorities, women, and LGBTQ. So let's talk about Latinos, because that's what we're that's who I am, and that's what we're talking about now. So in California, Latinos are about 42% of the population. With respect to hospitals, they also are about 42% of the revenues. We take a specific hospital. I won't name it now, but there's a hospital that's 22. It's a 22 chain hospital. It turns out that about 70% of the revenue are Latino. Now, that hospital and all the other hospitals in California, the diverse procurement opportunities afforded Latino businessmen like myself is 0.3%, less than 1%. In California, where again you have 42% Latino, and this is true for the other ethnic minorities. So what do you think that says for upward mobility? What do you think that says for boards of directors? What do you think that says for contributions that hospitals make? And this is one industry. I only mention that because, again, we have these statistics, but there are other industries that we don't have statistics. And so I believe that that this sets the tone. It's not going to make or break anybody, but it sets the idea that you want to be what I call kind of fair. I never know what fair is, Cassy, but I know what unfair is. And so we don't want unfair. No, that's not good business. You know, when I'm working with my clients, or I'm trying to negotiate a deal, I'm trying to get the best deal I can for my clients. But what I found is make it kind of fair. Leave a last nickel on the table so you can do the next deal. If I beat you up so badly, you're going to say Gil is too smart. I don't want to deal with him anymore. I don't want, he's just too tough. So thinking about uh, getting more of everybody at a higher level, and and to people will say, well, but you're letting in people that aren't qualified. Well, if you're really being fair, you'll let those people that are qualified in the door. And is it possible that Latino business is fairly successful now, but how would you become real successful when you're going to get the opportunity, like I've just described? So the same thing with employment, the same thing with contributions, the same thing with upward mobility, the same thing with boards of directors. Right now we have the same statistics with Latinos on corporate boards. We're a small fraction of what we should be, and you can. So, but we have the talent. In California, we're graduating now hundreds of thousands every year of Latino students from college. So, and they're all looking for opportunities. But I mentioned Latino, but again, we're talking about everybody. So the idea is, again, to change the landscape of opportunity. And that's where DEI comes in. They're trying to change the landscape. And so I fully endorse it. And I think that if you look at it from a kind of fair point of view, what's not to like about it?
Totally. I love that kind of fair. It's very even playing field.
I started out with that, if I can just add to that. So I
Yes.
meet Peter Yubero. Peter Yubero was the president of the 1984 Olympic Committee. And I said to him, and I'd call him Pete. I said, so Pete, I'm the only Latino on the executive committee. Let me tell you what I'm looking for. I'm looking for kind of fair. I've never known fair is. I know what unfair is, but if we can make it kind of fair, that's all I'm looking for. And he says, Gil, he says, I've heard a lot of things about you, but one of the things I heard is you're very clever. And he says, you're right. Life is not is not fair. And we talked about our background. We had the same identical backgrounds, and we were not that far different in age. He's still a dear friend of mine. I saw him the other day, and that's what served me pretty well. As I talked to people, and I said, look, I'm, just how do we make it? How do we make it so that we can both leave this room feeling good? And so that's kind of how I came up with this idea and this term, I should say, of kind of fair.
Beautiful. Very well said. As we're talking about brand authority and getting getting your name out there, but also proving the value to potential clients. You obviously care very much about doing business within your very clear set of values. So how do you communicate not only your value, but the value of your services to clients, and what strategies have proven effective in demonstrating that ROI to your company?
Well, I mentioned bigness is greatness, but the way it all starts, and I said some of this before, it starts with, first of all, you have to have confidence in yourself. If you don't have confidence, you just it won't work. So you have to have confidence in yourself. You have to, again, be willing to roll up your sleeves. You have to be friendly. You have to have a sense of humor. We haven't talked about that. So I can laugh myself. I have a real good sense of humor, but and you don't have to know when to use it, but it's very helpful. You have to obviously make sure you're technically skilled because you've got to impress people, and you've got to continually uh, do things like that set you apart. When I went on the board of General Telephone, which is now Verizon, they took a survey, took three surveys, and who was the most recognized Latinos in Los Angeles. And all three surveys, I was the only person that was in all three. And that's why they picked me for the board. And I was in all three because at that time, this is talking about in the early 80s, I've been president of the California Board of Accountancy. I've been founder of Alpha. I already had a pretty good size CPA firm. I was chairman of Unidos US, and you kind of look back at these things and a few other organizations that I didn't mention, and already you can see that if you're looking objectively and not talking about me, you're saying this guy's a leader. This guy knows how he's connected. This guy is somebody that we need to talk to, and slowly you build your brand up this way, and you set yourself apart. And of course, when you take a look at can take a look at Tesla. You can take a look at Google. Microsoft. They set themselves apart. They had a product that was different than the other products. And marketing and branding, you I trade on who I am. I can't change who I am. My name is Vasquez. So I'm going to live with that. I'm very proud of that. I want to change that. And so I try to make sure that people, when they see the name Bosk, they think, oh, man, he's well connected. He's smart. He's shrewd. He's successful. He's all the things that you want somebody to think you are so that you can be more successful. You can draw more people to you, meaning not just business, but staff that you need to help grow. So who do people want to work for? They want to work for somebody that they feel confident in, somebody they trust, somebody that has ideas, that's creative, that sees, that's able to see around the corner. One of the things that we did was we have a global firm because we have an office in the Philippines. And so one of the things that we decided to do was to build our own office so we could offshore and outsource some of our work. So now we're one of the maybe 30 firms in the United States out of 44,000 firms, CPA firms, that have this capability. We do work for about 24 other CPA firms and other private clients, and we set ourselves again apart. So at all times, you're thinking, how do you win? How do you become more successful? How do you draw people to you? And it's all tied into branding. So you're branding yourself, and maybe you don't really see it or know that you're doing it, but one day you look back and you say, gee, we've done pretty good. And all of a sudden you're the largest, minority firm in the United States, and not really thinking or necessarily trying, or maybe that was a goal, but you're just working every day, and then one day you look back, it's like yourself, and like a lot of us, you get through college, and you think, oh God, I did it. And then the next thing you do is you get a job, and you did that, and then you move on, and so it's I didn't mention this, but every day I try to be happy. One way or another, even if I goof up, I know if I did my best, I'm trying my best, then I look back and I think to myself, I did my best, and I want to be happy. I want to go to bed at night being happy. I have a daughter I'm alumnus of the year at Cal State LA. It was a real honor for me to achieve that. And my daughter, Laura, she went to Cal State LA. And so I'm very proud of that. All my kids have gone to college. I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of, setting an example for your children first, and then for others. So here we are.
Yeah, it's nice to be able to look back on any sort of event with pride and with joy and to feel that sense of accomplishment. And I'm curious, you're looking back on it now with all of these, feelings, and I'm curious if you remember how it felt in the moment to be highlighted so heavily, like on those three reports, or to start being in those rooms and being on those committees, how it felt in the moment when you were doing it. Do you remember?
Well, it's kind of, this is 40 years ago, right? So it's a long time ago that has happened. But I think I took it as just another thing I had to accomplish. I didn't pat myself on the back and say, "Wow, I've never been one to get fall in love with myself." I think that's why I mentioned I have a sense of humor. I kind of see that as a stepping stone to more achievements, and I think that as it happened, I thought, well, good, okay, so it's working. And now, so I got to keep going because I was too young to sit back and say, "Aha, I'm done." No, no, so it felt good when I was informed that. I remember I felt, oh, yeah, I didn't even know I was that well known because again, you're just working, right? So it felt good. So it was a good feeling. But and therefore, and it was a motivator as I saw it, and to just continue doing what I was doing, and like I said, I never really was counting. Uh, I was just when you're young, you're working, you're focused on success. You're trying to be happy at all times. You've got children that are growing up. You got a family. You got all these other things that you have to think about as well. So you're trying to package everything together. So you're not, you don't sit and say, aha. You just, you kind of, well, maybe say aha, but then you just move on. At least that's what I
Yeah.
did.
Well, I'm glad that you're able to look back on it now and have that sense of joy around what you did. It,
I look back now, and I am proud of what I accomplished, and I'm glad. I think I lived the life that I maybe I wanted to live even when I was young. I wanted to do something. You didn't. My father again asked me what do I want to be. I didn't know then, and it took me a while to figure it out, but I did figure it out, and so I think I've been true to kind of what it is that I always wanted to be somebody. What does that mean? I don't, you don't know what somebody is. I wanted to be successful. Maybe that's what I wanted to be, and then maybe that's when I say somebody, I wanted to be successful, and I think I've achieved that.
Congratulations. I'm so happy.
Thank
And
you.
that's all yeah. And that's all we have. And Gil, thank you for a riveting conversation. You have a unique, delightful, tenacious story. And thank you so much for sharing it with everyone. Before we wrap up, I'm wondering if you have anything you want to share with our listeners and where can people find you and connect with you?
Sure. Well, first of all, I'm very, as I mentioned, I'm a very friendly person. You can, if you wanted to call me, because sometimes people don't want to use email, you can call me by contacting my assistant Laura at 213-873-1729, and my email address is grv at Vasquez, Vasquez, CPA.com.
Great. Thank you. And that's
Thank
it
you,
for,
Cassy.
oh, sorry, can you say it again?
Thank you, Cassy. It's been a pleasure being on your podcast. It kind of made me recall some of the things that you kind of put in the back of your mind and sharing them with you. So thank you again for this opportunity.
And that's it for another episode of Amplify, the podcast for accounting firm growth. A big thanks to all of you for listening in today and for Gil for the great conversation. If you like what you heard, we'd love a review on the podcast platform you're listening to us on now. And be sure to listen to the other episodes this season. Our theme is Proving Your Worth. You can learn more about Amplify and our past seasons on accountingmarketing.org. Look for the podcast under publications. I'm Cassie Clayman, Marketing Coordinator at Topel Forman, and if you want to connect with me, you can reach out on LinkedIn. Thank you again, and we look forward to having you join us for another episode soon.